In 1991, 34-year-old Cindy Sarro moved her family toward an ordinary piece of the American dream. She wanted to transition her boyfriend and 2 daughters out of their cramped duplex and into a proper home on the outskirts of St. Louis. They found a seemingly perfect upgrade in Caseyville. It was an isolated house perched on a wooded hill, offering the kind of quiet, secluded safety that growing families actively prioritize during a move. But the property immediately displayed bizarre red flags. On move-in day, thick swarms of wasps guarded the entrance, and Cindy quickly realized the ground floor windows were fake, completely sealed shut and impossible to open. The anomalies escalated to the physical infrastructure within hours. When Cindy tried to draw a bath for her daughters, the plumbing purged thick, ink-black water that stained everything it touched. Significant financial and emotional investments in a new home often create a psychological trap of plausible deniability. To protect their investment, families often rationalize terrifying warning signs as simple maintenance issues or old house quirks. In a severe paranormal infestation, the first phase is often environmental control. An unseen intelligence hijacks the home's infrastructure to assert dominance over the physical space and the people within it. Cindy's first encounter with this control involved the home's electrical grid. After the lights began dimming aggressively and switches violently shocked her, an electrician made a discovery that defied physics. He found the heavy wiring purposefully turned around, reversing the flow of electricity through impossible sabotage. This sabotage extended to the family's communication. Matter of fact, Cindy's landline would function perfectly all day, only to go completely dead the exact moment she attempted to call her mother for help. These malfunctions represent a calculated tactical maneuver. By weaponizing the electricity and severing communication, the entities successfully isolated the victims before escalating to direct physical violence. Stage 2 marks the transition from infrastructure sabotage to direct, relentless physical battery against the human occupants. For Cindy, the violence was scheduled. Every night at midnight, an unseen force would strike her, delivering heavy, bruising punches to her stomach and targeted kicks to a pre-existing ruptured disc in her back. Months of sleep deprivation and physical battery eventually pushed Cindy to a biological breaking point. In this extreme state of exhaustion, she experienced involuntary astral projections, her consciousness essentially being shaken loose from her body as she became too weak to maintain a hold on the physical world. It was during these detached episodes that the entity revealed the source of its power. Cindy witnessed visions of 19th-century coal miners, Civil War burials, and dark-cloaked figures conducting sacrifices directed on the dirt of Cannonball Hill. Physical torment and profound sleep deprivation mirror classic interrogation techniques. This relentless pressure dismantled Cindy's psychological defenses, leaving her entirely vulnerable to the entity's final move. The final stage of a demonic siege is the corruption of loved ones. The entity stops attacking the primary victim directly and instead weaponizes their own family against them. This stage manifested through Cindy's boyfriend, Glenn. Normally a calm worker, his behavior turned erratic and violent, culminating in a night where he arrived with an axe and attempted to chop his way through the front door. The corruption reached Cindy's young daughter as well. Christy emerged from her room with a twisted expression, speaking in a deep, unrecognizable voice to tell Cindy that she hated her, a terrifying departure from the child's actual personality. Even nature on the hill appeared warped. The family dog's eyes took on a sickly green hue, and massive, non-human footprints, deeply sunken and possessing strange, elongated toes, appeared in the dirt outside the home. True supernatural terror is achieved when an entity strips away your final sanctuary. By possessing a partner and twisting the face of a child, the intelligence occupying the hill proved that even Cindy's own family could be used as a weapon to break her. Cindy made a final, desperate attempt to reclaim her home by bringing in a Catholic priest and a specialized exorcist from Missouri to perform a heavy blessing on the property. The entity met the religious rites with immediate mockery. When Cindy re-entered the house shortly after the priests left, the holy water that had been applied to the walls physically propelled itself through the air, splashing back onto her arms. A sudden, overwhelming stench of rotting earth flooded the house. This was the entity's declaration of victory, a clear signal that the religious intervention had failed to cleanse the hill. Facing financial ruin, Cindy made the necessary choice to walk away. She abandoned her investment and moved her family out of the house after only 3 months of living there. The escape required a significant lifestyle downgrade. Cindy and her daughters moved into a modest double-wide trailer, prioritizing physical safety over the aesthetic of their beautiful but corrupted dream home. This story lacks a cinematic triumph where the human spirit defeats an ancient darkness. Instead, it offers a sobering reality. Sometimes the only way to win is to recognize you are outmatched, cut your losses, and escape with your life. In 1991, Cindy moved her family into a modest house in Caseyville. Over the next 90 days, her home would undergo a total systemic collapse. The first signs of trouble were built directly into the architecture. Cindy soon discovered that the ground floor windows were completely sealed shut, designed to look like functioning windows, but effectively locking the interior off from the outside world. Soon, the plumbing itself turned hostile. When Cindy tried to draw a bath for her daughters, a thick black sludge erupted from the pipes, ruining the family's laundry and making the water completely unusable. Structural failures followed immediately. Heavy wooden cabinet doors tore themselves off their hinges without warning, while the lights across the home began to wildly surge and dim. An electrician arrived to trace the fluctuations and found something far more calculated. The home's wiring had been intentionally reversed, causing the switches to shoot active electrical currents directly at Cindy's hands whenever she touched them. The house was acting as an intelligent environment, weaponizing its infrastructure to force its occupants out. The violence soon shifted from the structure to Cindy herself. Every night, precisely between 10 o'clock and midnight, an unseen force began delivering severe, bruising blows to her stomach and back. Under the weight of these attacks, Cindy began experiencing involuntary astral projection. She described being pulled from her body and dragged into a twisted, laboratory-like version of her home, where she was repeatedly beaten. These assaults were surprisingly precise. Cindy had a pre-existing ruptured disc in her lower spine, and the entity concentrated its strikes on that exact physical weakness night after night. The house then began to sever her ties to the outside world. Phone lines would go dead the moment Cindy tried to call for help, and family members who attempted to visit would become violently, inexplicably ill the moment they crossed the threshold. By targeting her physical injuries and cutting off her communication, the entity achieved total control, trapping her in defenseless isolation. Once Cindy was weakened, the entity began influencing those around her. It started with a neighbor boy named Sean, who suddenly delivered cold, violent threats, telling Cindy's daughters he was going to nail their mother to the wall at midnight. The infection soon reached Cindy's own children. Her young daughter Christy emerged from her room one night with her face contorted in an unnatural mask, speaking to her mother in a deep, hateful voice that was not her own. Visual manifestations followed the psychological ones. Cindy watched as a historical soldier in a full uniform materialized and stepped directly out of the living room wall. The breaking point arrived with Cindy's boyfriend. His behavior shifted into something unrecognizable, and he pinned Cindy to their bed, attempting to suffocate her with an oversized pillow until she broke free and fled. Glenn returned to the property fully consumed by the entity's influence. He took a heavy axe and began chopping through the front door, only stopping when he was intercepted by the police. Manifestations had escalated into a total hijacking of human autonomy. The entity was now turning family members into lethal weapons against one another. After evacuating the family, Cindy began investigating the history of the physical land beneath the house. She discovered the home sat on Cannonball Hill, a war burial site, where subterranean corpses had been violently displaced by regional earthquakes over the decades. Further research confirmed the details of her astral visions. An 1881 coal mining operation had once occupied the site, a place long associated with rumors of dark, underground sacrificial rituals. In a final attempt to reclaim the property, Cindy brought in a priest and an exorcism specialist to perform a formal Catholic ritual. The exorcism failed immediately. When Cindy returned to the house, the entity physically defied gravity, and the dried holy water was thrown back off the walls at her. Cindy put the house on the market after 3 months of occupancy. While media networks later sensationalized the account with standard horror tropes, the actual events remained far more complex. The 90-day siege indicates that some physical locations are too deeply saturated by their own history to support human life.